Hello everyone, Matt here, and in this video I'm going to explain Russell's argument for universals. I thought this would be a helpful introduction to Plato. At the end of chapter 8, Russell gives this argument when he's been talking about the a priori, and if you haven't already watched the Kant video, you should probably watch the Kant video first to learn about the a priori. And at the end of this chapter 8, Russell gives an argument for the existence of something called a universal. And so in this video, I'm going to explain this argument and a little bit about what universals are. And I think this will be a helpful introduction to Plato before you move on to all the Plato videos. All right, so let's consider this argument. An ant is in my room. It's a very simple sentence, and we understand what this means. We know that in order for this to be true, two things at least have to exist. The ant has to exist, and my room has to exist. But Russell asks, there's another thing that we could ask about the sentence. Does in exist? Well, what do we mean by that word in? In refers to a relationship between the ant and my room. And we know what it means for the ant to exist and for the room to exist. Those are physical things. But this relationship that in refers to, it's not as clear what this means. Does that relationship exist? It seems like it's got to exist. It's something that we can think about and that we can understand. After all, if we didn't think about this and if we couldn't understand this, then we wouldn't understand the sentence, an ant is in my room, and we obviously understand this sentence. The relationship is not just a product of our minds, contrary to what Kant said. So Kant thought that that relationship in is just a product of your mind. And what he meant by that is something that our mind imposes on the world, that the things in themselves, the ant in the room, do not have any relationships between them. But our mind imposes order onto the world and creates this relationship. And as a result, that relationship in between the ant and the room would be a mental thing. But Russell denied that the relationship is a mental thing. It's interesting to think about why he denies that this relationship is a mental thing. Here's one reason. The relationship between the ant and the room is not mental because that sentence might be true, an ant is in my room, even if no one is ever aware of the ant being in the room. And if this is the case, then it seems like there's got to be something that's not mental if the sentence is actually true. So if there's my next door neighbor's house is empty right now, it's on the market, it's being sold, so there's nobody over there. There might be an ant in one of the rooms, and nobody knows that that ant is there for sure. And the sentence, an ant is in that room, would be true, even if nobody knows about it. So if that's the case, then the relationship between the ant and the room can't be something that's purely mental. This truth depends only on the existence of the ant and the existence of the room. It doesn't depend on anything else. So let's take a look at the way this argument works. The first premise is just a restatement of what we've been talking about so far. In refers to a relationship between the ant and my room. We can think about and understand this relationship, but this relationship is neither physical nor mental. It's not a physical thing. We can't just look out into the world and see the relationship. We see the ant and we see the room, but we don't see or touch or taste or feel the relationship. It is not physical. I've just explained Russell's argument for why it's not mental either, because it could be true. This relationship could be true between the ant and the room, even if nobody's aware of it. And if that's the case, it can't be something that is mental. So, from this argument, we can conclude that something exists that is neither physical nor mental. Well, we've talked about physicalism, we've talked about idealism. Physicalists say that only physical stuff exists. Idealists say that only mental stuff exists. And dualists like Descartes claim that both physical and mental stuff exist. We've never talked about somebody who thinks that there is a third thing that exists, something that exists that's neither physical nor mental. Well, what exists that's neither physical nor mental? What in the world could this be? Well, the philosophical answer for this is called universals. Universals are things that are neither physical nor mental, and they exist. Things like relationships. Well, this is a good introduction or a good segue into talking about Plato. Plato held an extreme version of this philosophy of universals. Plato's answer was that these things that exist that are neither physical nor mental are forms. And you can see the picture here. We've got apples, and then at the bottom, the world of matter, and then we've got the world of forms above that. Well, Plato held that these things, these universals, the things that are neither mental nor physical, are mind-independent objects. They don't depend on minds, so they're not physical, they're not mental. They are also not physical. They are abstract objects, but they actually exist. And all other physical objects, even all other mental objects like thoughts and ideas, are merely imperfect copies of the perfect forms that exist somehow in the world of the forms. So, after you finish with this video, you are now set up to watch the Plato videos and gain a further understanding of Plato's forms.